Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. The Committee on Appropriation convenes this FY 2020 budget hearing for the University of Guam, and then immediately after the University of Guam will be the Guam Charter Schools. Budget hearing notices were given to the media first was on Tuesday, March 5th. Second notice was Wednesday, March 13th, and for the record, today is March 15th, and the time now is 9 o'clock. The Committee on Appropriation will hear and accept testimonies pertaining to the University of Guam's budget. Okay, and I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Senator Castro, and I know that several other senators, my colleagues, will be appearing. They're just taking care of some administrative matters this morning. The general rules for the budget hearing. The conduct of this budget hearing shall be as follows. Those testifying will be recognized in the order of sign-up on the sign-in sheet. We would specifically go to the chairman and then the president, and then we just go down the flow because you're all part of the university board. Written testimony may be read, lengthy. Written testimony should be summarized to about 5 minutes. Written testimony shall be submitted to the committee. Please provide our legislative staff with your written testimony for photocopying. Testimony shall be confined to the substance. Persons will be allowed to present oral testimony only once. Once you are done, you may be asked to remain in the room for questions or for additional testimony. It may be desired by members of the panel. When you speak, please make sure that your microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. You start with this by stating your name. I also like to recognize the president of Senator Jim Moylan, and we have the Oversight Chair of the University of Guam, Senator Amanda Shelton. And ladies and gentlemen, because of previous public hearings, I'll give fair warning. No derogatory statements or gestures will be tolerated during my holding of public hearings. Any gestures or statements, you would be immediately asked to leave, non-debatable. All right? So we just keep this as professional as possible, especially from the University of Guam. Por favor, I'm an alumni of the University of Guam. We will begin with the chairman, Mr. Chris. Sir.
Thank you, Senator. Honorable senators, my name is Christopher Felix, and I'm the chairman of the UOG Board of Regents for this year. And I have prepared a written testimony I've submitted, and with your permission, I'd like to read it. Honorable senators and members of the audience, thank you for allowing the University of Guam to present its case for the FY 2020 budget. Under President Underwood, UOG embarked on a good to great initiative we called G2G, established a cultural change within the institution, one that required our programs and departments to think about financial sustainability, fit to mission, and what each would do to make UOG more responsive and relevant to the broader communities we serve. Today, under the leadership of President Christ and his team, our students and this Board of Regents, we hope to continue the university's upward trajectory of academic excellence, research, innovation, and community engagement. But we need support of our legislature and the governor. The budget appropriation we are requesting will help us strengthen our foundation, grow enrollment, improve the experience of our students, and grow more local capability for our island. It will support a new school of engineering and allow us to pursue relevant and meaningful research opportunities and federal grants. This appropriation will support outreach activities, engage with our community to address important issues like the eradication of invasive species, the study of cancer among our population, the study of our unique marine life, finding solutions for island sustainability, and understanding our water resources. The expertise for all these is found conveniently and congregated on the UOG campus in McNeilau. The Board of Regents has reviewed the university's FY 2020 budget request and fully support the budget packet as submitted to you. We ask for your full support of the University of Guam, our students who will be Guam's future professional workforce, and our programs that help meet the needs of our island community. Biba UOG. Thank you, Senators.
Biba. Dr. Kreis, you're next, but I understand you have a slide. Would you like to present that first, and then you would like to...
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to allow the chair of the Budget, Audit, and Finance Committee of the Board of Regents, Mr. Elvin Chang, to make a statement as well, and then the President of the Student Government Association, Mr. Evander de Guzman, to make a statement, and then I thought I would present the slide show. Would that be all right?
Sure. Sir.
Thank you, President Kreis. My name is Elvin Chang, a committee chair of Budget, Finance, and Audit. I want to echo what our board chair has said, and our committee members are in full support of the fiscal year 2020 budget request, and we will appreciate your kind consideration and give us our support that we need for this university. Siyus Masi.
Thank you, sir, Mr. Chan. Now we have Mr. D. Guzman, right? Okay.
Hafaday and good morning, Senators, President Kreis, Chairperson Felix, members of the Board of Regents, and supporters of UOG. Thank you for providing me with an opportunity to speak from the perspective of a UOG student. My name is Evander de Guzman. I am a current junior at the University of Guam and the current president of the 57th Student Government Association. As I'm nearing the, So I am the current president of the 57th Student Government Association. My fellow SGA officers and I have worked closely with UOG's administration and have experienced some of the struggles our university faces day to day due to a lack of resources. UOG offers a high quality education. We have faculty, staff, and administration who dedicate their knowledge, talent, and abilities to teach and inspire all of us students. In the 3 years I have attended UOG, we have experienced financial hardships due to lower appropriations, holdbacks, and the untimely release of funds. These burdens don't just affect UOG employees and programs, but also UOG students like me and others here today. Some of you attended UOG, and you benefited from the investments made from past legislatures, governors, and other officials. How many more of our island's leaders and professionals making a difference in our island community are products of UOG? The 57th University of Guam Student Government Association supports this budget request, and we hope you will as well. Your support means everything to us students. We hope you see funding UOG as an investment and not as an expense, because you are investing not only to my future and the students today, but also to the young generation who will choose UOG not as a natural choice, but the first and only choice. We do not want to miss our opportunity to become educators, health professionals, business leaders, and maybe even future senators or governors. Thank you so much for your time, and Biba UOG.
Biba. Thank you, Mr. D. Guzman. I'd like to also recognize Senator Telina Nelson, as president. And just for the audience, if I'm correct, I think all 5 of us are alumni of UOG. So Biba UOG. Now we're going to put the burden on Dr. Kreis to justify his budget. Sir, we'll start with you.
Buenas San Hafade, Iman Senadot Mina 35 na legislatura en Guahan. Situats Mase for your time and for the privilege to make this presentation to you. And I would also like to note the presence of the Senior Vice President for Academic and Student Affairs, Dr. Anita Enriquez, and the Vice President for Administration and Finance, Mr. Randy Wiegand, who will be available for the questions that you might have. Situats Mase to you all and to your predecessors for establishing and sustaining your public university all these 67 years. Thanks for your personal engagement with UOG, which was symbolized by the presence of so many of you at Charter Day festivities on Tuesday. I'd also like to express my personal thanks to Chairman San Agustin for his mentorship of me since the very first day of my first interview day for this important position of trust. And also thanks to him for his leadership in Public Law 39-151 this last year that helps us capture more federal funding for student assistance and gives us more money available to help students with needs. So thank you very much for that. As noted, members of the 35th Legislature in Guahan are alumni and also parents of students and alumni, faculty, advisory board members, and mentors to students. And every single one of you is a role model for Tritons to look up to and to imagine their futures as leaders of Guam and the wider world. UOG has come a long way. I think members of the legislature are more aware than most of us just how far we've come and how much stronger UOG is now than it was 5, 10, 20 years ago. There are three key pillars of support that have made this possible. The first is the appropriation from the legislature for the support of the general operations budget. It really is the bedrock of the institution and the foundation on which UOG can help solve Guam's problems. It's also the foundation of UOG's economic impact on Guam and the region. The second key pillar of support is the autonomy of the governance of UOG, symbolized by the Board of Regents and by the Regent Nominating Committee process, instituted about 20 years ago, that helps ensure the autonomy and integrity of our best practice system, and that's key to our accreditation as well. The third key pillar of support is the appropriation of the Student Financial Assistance Program, which is critical to keeping a first-class UOG education achievable for all of our people, regardless of income. So I'll begin this PowerPoint presentation with our basic request and then offer you an overview of the university and the reasons why it's worth your attention and support. So the first slide, if you would, please, is the appropriation request itself. And so the figures there are $33.95 million for general operations, $4.05 million for the Student Financial Assistance Program, and $570,000 for special appropriations for the Water and Environmental Research Institute and for the Hatchery Project. And now on to the reasons why I think this support is deserved. So the UOG Charter, which we celebrated this week, is a combination of new and existing laws and regulations and was promulgated in 1968, and that gave us university status. We now have 2 colleges, 4 schools, 4 research units, and 4 outreach units, plus more than 12 mission-critical support offices, academic and operational. We have a very successful track record of winning federal grants, and this is an important element of the presentation, to say we have come a long way and we're able to do this now. We have more than 17,500 graduates making Guam and the wider world better. And as you know, our mission statement is Ina Descubre Setpi, to enlighten, to discover, and to serve. And the next few slides will highlight each of those terms by calling attention to several highlights. So the first is under academic highlights, or ENA, to enlighten. Our School of Nursing and Health Sciences secured 8 years of accreditation recently this academic year, for the nursing program and achieved a remarkable 100% pass rate for the NCLEX exam for our graduates for 3 years running. Our School of Business and Public Administration also this year secured another 7 years of accreditation and continues to foster sustainable, ethical, and socially responsible business and government leaders. So both of those specialized accreditations are in addition to our overall accreditation. Next, we show the School of Education. Undergraduate students have performed above the 80th percentile nationally on their praxis exams, and this is a significant improvement and a point of pride. The College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences, an example there of success is the clinical psychology graduate students continue to be accepted into doctoral programs nationwide. In the College of Natural and Applied Sciences, we have a new master's degree in sustainable agriculture, food, and natural resources, which will help Guam's fragile ecosystems. Continuing on the ENA Enlightenment, the academic highlights, we have our new School of Engineering. The 4-year Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering degree program was approved by the Board of Regents just in February this year. We're pending the accreditation review from WASC for our general accreditation and pursuing a specialized accreditation from the Accrediting Board for Engineering and Technology. This specialized accreditation is critical for the employability of our students, and we anticipate having that about in the year 2022. And the steadiness of support for the institution is critical to these kinds of accreditations. The permitting is nearing completion for the new building, and you see the rendering there for the new engineering annex that will house the School of Engineering. And this will help, this school will help solve the shortage of professional engineers in Guam and the region. We already have enrollment nearing 100 students of people who are in the pre-engineering program who are moving into the 4-year Bachelor of Science degree program. Now moving to Descubre, the discovery aspect of our mission. We have a number of research highlights to point out. The Micronesian Area Research Center just celebrated its 50th anniversary this last year. It's unique in its research focus on Guam and the region, and it will manage also the new Guam Cultural Repository. The Marine Laboratory is the fastest growing research team in the university and one of the top labs of its kind in the nation. Our Water and Environmental Research Institute is one of the top environmental institutes in the nation. And our Cancer Research Center has developed a cancer registry, conducted research on betel nut use and cessation, and created awareness for cancer screenings. So these things are really notable, distinguished elements of your public university and worth paying attention to. Continuing on research highlights and the discovery aspect, UOG's grant portfolio has expanded and provides information that will help shape island decisions. And there are lots of acronyms in the federal grant world, and EPSCoR is one of them. And this is a really important grant that signals the admission of Guam and the University of Guam into a whole new category of research grants. So this is a really important thing that we've received. We received a $6 million grant that we're now this year applying to expand that for a $20 million renewal. So this has opened the doors to other grants, and it reflects an elevated level of research performance at UOG. Our scientists and students are studying the genetic makeup of our island's coral reefs, which will benefit our island and region, especially in terms of fisheries, tourism, and sustainability. In cancer research, we have significant grants there, and research that was once performed elsewhere is now being performed in Guam. And GOREX is a signal of our future in the data environment. So this provides more connectivity and opportunity for Guam to become a serious telecommunications hub. And so I'll have slides for each of these three things, EPSCoR, cancer research, and GOREX, just to highlight them. So the first here is the National Science Foundation EPSCoR grant. And this, we have now been admitted, Guam has been admitted to join the 26 states and territories that are allowed to be part of this EPSCoR grant program. And it's focused on studying the effects of climate change on coral reefs. And I can't overemphasize how prestigious this grant is and how this opens the door for much more to come. And it's really a significant achievement of the whole team at UOG. It's, some of the other grants that it opens the doors for include things like a NASA EPSCoR. So each of the different divisions of the government have different categories of EPSCoR. So NASA is an opportunity, also the possibility of NASA Space Grant. And then you might have heard of the Virgin Orbit project. So this is the kind of thing a contract that might be related to those kinds of things. And it gives confidence in the University of Guam. The benefits for Guam of these kinds of NSF grants are healthy coral reefs, and are important in climate change and ecotourism, research opportunities for faculty and students, to develop STEM education across the, from K through 12 all the way through UOG, building local capacity and career development, and now we're also able to attract other grants. On to the National Cancer Institute U54 Partnership Grant, the Cancer Grant. This one is focused on studying cancer health disparities in the Pacific. It's increasing the number of local researchers, faculty, and students, and increasing awareness of cancer and cancer prevention. We've had continuous National Cancer Institute funding since 2010. This is another indication of just how far we've come. It's opened doors to other grants as well. The U54 impacts include 15 collaborative research projects, 26 local students funded and trained in cancer research, and 2 graduates now are UOG faculty themselves. And it's also led to landmark tobacco control legislation with the public laws listed there, and thank you for those. Next is GOREX, which this map is probably the best way to describe the way that Guam is becoming a hub for telecommunication cables across the Pacific. And so this indicates in the hard lines the existing cabling, which is really significant between the Bay Area and California all the way to Singapore and to Sydney, as well as to FSM and the Marshall Islands and to the CNMI. And you see with the dotted lines the addition from Sydney to Tokyo passing through Guam and other connections. So this indicates the possibilities for Guam to become a very serious telecommunications hub. And UOG is at the center of this development. So next we move on to the SETB, or the service to serve aspect of our mission. And so the service highlights include our Center for Island Sustainability, which is celebrating its 10th year this year. And it creates awareness and brings resources about green and sustainability practices to meet the unique needs of small island communities. We also have our land grant extension and outreach. As a land grant institution, extension and outreach partnership and service to the community is an essential part of the core identity of UOG. So we provide research-based knowledge and service to the needs of Guam's communities. You're probably all aware of CEDARS as well, provides specialized technical assistance and training in education, healthcare, and social work to create pathways and opportunities for individuals with disabilities. And our Pacific Islands Small Business Development Center provides training and resources to small businesses and aspiring entrepreneurs. And these are all just sort of highlights of these. And the INA, Descubre, SETB together, I hope, indicates that UOG is an investment and that no investment has higher returns than education in any way. And there's also not a single problem faced by the island of Guam for which the University of Guam is not at least a component of the solution. This next slide shows the recent growth of enrollment and credit hour production. So that's multiplying the students by the number of credits that they take. And so you see this sort of steady rise over this period of time, a slight plateau in the last few years, and some of that is related to funding issues that I'll call some attention to. But you see this significant rise over this period of time and the growth and strength of the university and our students. And we also provide the professional workforce for Guam and the whole Western Pacific region. So with 17,500 more than that alumni, and you see educators, nurses and health professionals, community leaders, journalists and communication professionals, computer specialists, social workers, business leaders, as well as commissioned military officers through our distinguished Army ROTC program, as well as through our graduates completing officer candidate school. So these should indicate the strengths of UOG. It's a producer of an educated professional workforce for Guam and the whole region. We provide unique research, outreach, and training support across a range of areas. We're experienced in federal funds acquisition, management, outcomes, and impacts. We know how to do this. We do it professionally. We don't send money back. It's important. The fact that we're a low-risk financial auditee is also critical for our ability to attract grants and has a lot to do with our reputation. Our strong accreditation evaluations from our overall general accreditation called WASC and our specialized accreditations in areas like education, nursing, business, and so on, all of those are very strong indicators of the quality of our program and the excellence of our faculty and staff. And we have a strong history as a strategic partner and an honest broker with agencies and organizations across Guam. And all of this has been achieved with years of steady support from the government of Guam, from the legislature and the executive. But the last 3 years has been a struggle. And so now let me talk a little bit about that. So this slide shows the fiscal realities and the need for allotment stability. So this kind of excellence that I've been trying to demonstrate rests on a foundation of steady support for the institution. So in the last 3 years, we've suffered an unsteady level of support. So you see with the green, the yellow is the appropriations from the legislature, and you see it reached a high point in 2017, and then with 2 different cuts in 18 and 19, you see the drop there. A perhaps more significant problem for us has been the failure of the allotment, so the failure of the executive to deliver the appropriations that the legislature appropriated. And so this reduction has been the cause of our recent difficulties and why we're here asking for your support now to improve the situation. And the red lines indicate the general trends. And besides building on the momentum of the past decade, a fully funded UOG can complete the hiring of 40 positions, which include faculty for engineering, nursing, and education. A fully funded UOG can help provide more faculty who will improve retention and improve on-time graduation. It will increase capacity for grants and contracts, gradually reducing the dependence of the university on GovGuam. And it will resume capital expenditures on facilities and address deferred maintenance projects that have compounded expenses in the last 3 years. And I focused on this first section on the general operations budget, and now I'd like to turn to the Student Financial Assistance Program, which is assigned to UOG to manage. So this slide shows that we have a related story regarding the allotments and the impacts on the institution. So the allotments there in green and the collection. So one of the ways that we're performing better in recent years and being very good stewards of our resources is by collecting from students who defaulted on loans or are late on their loans. And so that's improved a lot, and that's helped to sort of blunt the impact of the reduction in allotments. But you see this drop in particularly beginning in 2017 and then much more severely in 2018. And so, so this compounds the problems that we have from the general operations budget. So 2 ways that we could that the legislature could help us maintain the kind of steady, predictable funding that is critical to the building of excellence would be a couple of legislative fixes. So one is we're asking you, please, to ensure that the university will not have allotments withheld at a greater rate than any other agency. And second, we ask, please, to restore the continuing appropriation provision as in past budget laws prior to fiscal year 2019. And to put the GovGuam's appropriation into context, this slide suggests sort of the foundation that GovGuam, the big green box at the bottom, 36.2 million or 38%. This is from 2017, but it just gives you an idea of the relative pieces of the organization. So UOG is a $94.3 million organization, sort of standing on the basic appropriation from GovGuam. With grants and contracts, that's been increasing over the years, but it depends so much on the steadiness of the public support for our public university. Auxiliary and other services include things like the professional international programs, the dormitories, the food services, other kinds of auxiliary enterprises. And our ability to do public-private partnerships will help us strengthen that, expand that one. And at the top is the only other lever that we have, and that's our net tuition. They're about 14% of our total. And we've been trying very hard at the institution to keep UOG affordable for our students. The next slide shows our achievement of that affordability. So this shows all the states with Guam there, just over there on the left in green. And so UOG's tuition is 22% of the national average for out-of-state tuition, and it's 60% of the average in-state tuition. So this is just a visual to indicate that we've been successful at keeping UOG affordable, and we want to keep it affordable. So I hope all of this will help you agree with all of us that UOG is a real jewel in the crown of Guam, that we really need your support. We appreciate your establishing the university in the beginning and then supporting us through this whole rise in quality and impact in Guam. And we ask that you please approve our appropriation requests of $33.95 million for the general operations, $4.05 million for student financial assistance program, and $570,000 for the special appropriations for Weary and the hatchery. We also ask that we include the following provisions, that you be able to include these provisions in the 2020 budget law to avoid disproportionate cuts in budget allotments or enforce the exemption from BBMR and or DOA allotment controls, and to allow for a continuing appropriation. I think you will all agree that your public university is a superb institution, and with your help we can move ever upward. Parahulo. Situus Masi.
Thank you, Dr. Christ. I'd like to recognize my colleagues that have joined us, but also to actually properly recognize Senator Nelson. She is the acting speaker of the Guam legislature. We have, my farthest right would be Senator Lee, and then we have Senator Clinton Rigel. My farthest left would be Senator Dr. Kelly Marsh and Senator Pt.1. We have other folks that have signed up, but I'm going to safely assume that you actually wanted to be able to respond to questions, right, Randy? Like yourself and let me see, and also Dr. Anita, because they all sign up to say oral statement, but it's really to say yes or no, right? And look at Chris is smiling. But we will begin our questioning. We will start first with the Oversight Chair, Senator Amanda Shelton. Ma'am.
Hafide, good morning, Dr. Christ, and all of the UOG family. Welcome to the Guam Congress Building. Situus Masi for being here today and for your presentation. Well, I saw the last request regarding the allotment for BBMR, and our office has found that there is actually statute that grants GCC, UOG, and DOE an exemption every year, so it doesn't have to be included in the budget request, but that is something that I'm currently working with the administration, the governor's office, to ensure that UOG gets those allotments. Okay? All right. So I have a couple of questions for you. And in the budget requests that we saw come into the legislature, you say in the request that the shortfall in allotments has caused the university to defer maintenance, and that directly impacts our students and employees, especially their safety and well-being. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to give us some examples of that, because I've spoken with several students who have brought the concerns of the air conditioning units up to me, and that they've been suffering throughout this semester and even before that. So if you can speak to those concerns.
I'll defer.
And Dr. Christ, before you start, can you also add the fire watch, I think, is also on at UOG? Is there a fire watch at all? No. I understand there's a couple of rooms at the University of Guam that may be on fire. And all I'm saying is...
We've had some fire watches on and off for the year in a couple of buildings.
I want to make sure that's included as part of the maintenance cost impact, okay?
Yeah, so, I mean, air cons have been the biggest problem. When you lose aircon, then you have mold issues that can come up. And one example is our School of Business and Public Administration. And in FY16, we had 2 projects all set to go. One was a project to replace the air conditioning system in the School of Business and Public Administration. The other was a campus-wide backup generator project where our goal was to try to put a generator in every building with a classroom so that whatever's happening with GPA or storms and recoveries, that we would be able to continue those. Those are two projects. As soon as we learned we weren't going to be getting our full appropriation for FY16, we just wiped out our capital budget because we needed to take that money and use it to make payroll for the rest of the year. So the issue with the aircon is that if we had replaced it, a lot of the issues that we have dealt with this year would not have happened. But every time the aircon goes out, or if it's not as stable as we'd like it, then we're dealing with mold issues, and we have to work on testing the air quality, figure out what's causing it, where the areas where there's too much mold in the air, and then we have to spend our time and money cleaning. SOE is another area where we didn't have that scheduled for replacement, but we've run into great problems with the air conditioning this year, and so that's caused us to have to do a lot of work to try to clean, get rid of mold issues that are coming up afterwards. So those are the major ways in which the cuts have been affecting us.
Thank you. And I know that in the SOE building there have been some improvements with split unit air cons being put in, and there were previously the portable air cons there. So I was wondering if there's any way that those portable air cons could be moved to the HSS building, that the whole half of the building doesn't have any air con on the half of it. I was there for the class research conference, and I noticed that.
Yeah, HSS, that's been an ongoing, that's been an ongoing issue also. But, and it takes a little while to get those set up, so we've been trying to move them only if we think it's going to be more than a few days where the aircon will be out. But improving reliability in aircons across campus has been a major issue for us.
Okay, thank you. And I know in the budget request there's also a note about exploring a tuition increase, and I'm sure that's very concerning to a lot of our students because we want to keep the university, as you said, affordable for all of us. So what is that looking like? Can you discuss that?
So we haven't had a tuition increase in 3 years, and so we've been trying to hold, you see the affordability and our commitment to affordability. 47% of our students are Pell Grant recipients, which is an indication of relatively low income, and so that's a big part of our student body, and we're really concerned about it. So we're trying to keep tuition as low as we can. We anticipate needing to, partly to deal with the allotment shortfalls of the recent years, so we anticipate having one, and the board will discuss that in the April meeting. But the level of it is what's sort of up in the air, so we're hoping that we won't need to, but it's the only lever that we have left if we can't get the basic appropriation and the allotments. So.
Do you know what that proposal is?
For the figure? Mm-hmm. So, thinking the last time we did them was it was 2 years of 5% each. I mean, so it's in that sort of category. Something that's, it would be better to sort of gradually increase it over time. We don't want, current students to be hit with a big increase all at once. So those are all issues that we're attending to. So. Okay. It's still to be discussed. I mean, the board has to think about it. So. Okay,
thank you. And then I know you touched a little bit about the financial assistance section of the budget, and you note some substantial cuts from your FY 2019 proposed budget to your actual FY 2019 reapportioned budget. So, for example, the Protect Award budget went from $500,000 to $193,000. And the Doc Sanchez went from $150,000 to $74,000. And we know that lots of times it's cost that's a barrier to enrollment and to student success. So I wanted to ask, however, there was an exception there that the Regent Scholar Program, it went from $175,000 to $350,000. in the reapportioned budget. So why was this one scholarship program doubled while the others were cut drastically?
Can you reply to that?
Sure. A lot of these are need-based, and we do them based on what the demand is. The Regent Scholar, the Board of Regents had set a class of students that are eligible, so we just followed the eligibility for that. The Doc Sanchez, the demand for that scholarship was low. The Pro-Tech, we had to adjust to our fiscal realities, and so that was the one discretionary move that we made, was to shrink the number of people we would accept for the Pro-Tech.
But there wasn't a decrease in applicants for the Pro-Tech.
I don't believe there was. I think there's been a big demand for the Pro-Tech, and we've just been telling people we can't do that.
Okay.
So I think the habit has been to continue people who are currently enrolled with the program, and as the cuts have happened, then you just don't offer new ones. So it crimps the opportunity for other students is the coping mechanism.
Okay. Okay, then just a couple other things that stood out to me in the budget. So your 2018 unaudited expenditures and encumbrances for your power bills, $2,568,000, and your request in the 2020 budget is for $3,380,000. That's a 32% increase. So why is that such a drastic increase in the budget for power?
Yeah, part of it is because we're forecasting an increase in fuel cost for this year, and the other is that we have new buildings coming online. Well, especially the School of Engineering, which we're beginning construction in the next few weeks. And so we're expecting that's gonna create an additional draw on our power bill.
Okay, and then the same question for contractual services, because there was a 65% increase in the request for this year. So what are the needs for your contractual services that it rose so much?
Well, yeah, a lot of that was that to cope with the current year budget, we had been pressing a lot of the units to do without. And so we asked them, can you fund your copiers, fund your contracts with non-appropriated funds? And it's been very difficult this year. We've had a lot of pushback. And so some of that is people saying, I just can't fund these contracts on my own. I need to have funding for that. And then the other, we're increasing security a little bit. We've had an increase of issues on campus over the last few years, and we're realizing that we need to have a bigger security presence, so that's involved in that. We've got a project where we're trying to build a new dorm, and we believe this is going to be ultimately a revenue-generating source of income for us, but we have to pay an engineer to help us with the design and help us with the development of the RFP for that project, and so that's a new cost that's in here. We've had some problems with an underground tank that we have, and EPA has been monitoring us, so we've got some engineering and monitoring contracts that we've got to have in place to get that situation cleaned up. And then finally, we cut our library for this year, and there's been issues where they're trying to make sure that the resources that we have available to our students to do research is on par with our peer and aspirant universities, and we didn't really meet that target this year, and so they're asking for additional funding so that they can increase the access that our students have to research materials from online resources and other universities.
Okay, thank you. And something else that stood out to me that I was actually interested in, very excited about, was the university wanting to improve financial literacy of its students upon entry. And so, of course, we want to eliminate those barriers so that we increase retention and success for all of our students. So do you think that there's enough financial literacy in our schools, high schools, that our children are receiving before they enter into the university, so that they understand the realities of paying for college?
I'll defer to the Senior Vice President.
All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, and honorable senators for this opportunity. There appears to be a collective effort among other members of our community called the private sector, and they have been engaged in our K-12 school system in providing financial literacy types of seminars. It is certainly an opportunity for our institution to go deeper into that pipeline to offer financial literacy sessions. As you know, the University of Guam has a strong partnership with Pt.1 High School already, where we offer our university courses to students on a dual enrollment basis. We have learned of a strong interest by the other high school principals to be able to have such a presence, which will allow us to leverage financial literacy type of sessions on site, so that we ease the burden of transportation barriers, as well as other type of barriers, leveraging our cooperative extension and outreach sessions that already exist within the College of Natural and Applied Sciences. So yes, we certainly would love to be able to satisfy that demand.
Thank you. So are there plans to build on that interest in the other high schools?
And the other high schools, yes. It obviously requires a certain model to be put in place. And of course, we don't want to impose additional financial burden on any agency. And we would like to ensure that we have a member of the University of Guam faculty on a part-time basis who already teaches at that respective high school. It is a model that we adopted with Pt.1 High School. And so you have a representative there who's able to engage with the university that's already been approved by the university, and we can deliver the university level courses to allow students to earn credits for both their high school diploma as well as a university degree.
Okay, thank you very much, SVP, for sharing that. I think it's important for us to know how we can better support our students even before they get to the university, so that they can be successful in college. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Senator. I'd like to also recognize, has joined us, Senator Sabina Paris. Thank you for joining us. We will now I'll ask our acting speaker if she has any questions before I go to the other colleagues. Ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to thank you for inviting us over on Charter Day and the awesome festivities. So the students worked very hard, and I appreciated your speech. It was very well said, very motivating, and so congratulations. Senator, the chair of EOG already asked many of the questions I wanted to ask, but I am concerned about the tuition increase, really the impact to the students. And you mentioned it yourself, Dr. Christ, that a lot of the families come from low income or they receive financial aid. And so I heard that you're planning on moving or looking at a 5% increase. There's some of the options that you are weighing.
So the last two increases were 5% 5 years ago and 4 years ago. So that's sort of the model. So.
Okay, and then are you using this, you said it's the last lever that you have to pull because you are not getting your allotments. And I saw that, and I'm glad the chair addressed that, because we were just in a meeting today and we said that we are on track for collections. And so really I'm hoping that we receive the support from the administration so that you get your full appropriation. I'm a little bit disappointed to see, I'm glad that you showed it, the graph, to show the disparity between the appropriations and allotments over the years. And so we have a new sheriff in town, so I am very confident that because we are on track, then perhaps you will get the appropriations that were given to you. So if you get all this appropriation, will you still have to, are you still considering to looking at the option of an increase in tuition?
So I think just in a long-term way, and we're actually in the middle of a strategic planning process now, that universities often will hold their tuition steady for a long time, and then they have a sharp rise that does all sorts of harm to students who are currently students at the time. Mm-hmm. And so there's something to be said about gradual small increases sort of along with cost of living, that kind of a thing, and do that gradually so that you spread the burden across a little more broadly. So I think that model would be something to think of to avoid anything that requires a sharp increase. That's kind of the basic principle.
So you're still going to examine increasing tuition even if all the appropriations?
Well, I mean, the idea is that if we can have the appropriations and we could hold that down, so it would be the idea. And so the student financial aid and so on.
Maybe like 0.5%.
Right, I mean, yes, all those, yes, right. Yeah. So we've been trying to hold it down, you know, and haven't had an increase even through these difficult 3 years. And so it's just something that we need to look at, but we would prefer not to if we could. So.
Okay. Yes, I appreciate that because, you know, if the tuition increases and it's already difficult for students to go to school, some of them are living paycheck to paycheck, and then it's already difficult the cost of living on Guam is already high. It might be, there might be an impact on, you know, one fulfilling their dream of getting a diploma or a degree from UOG, and so I just want to make sure that the increase, if you are looking at it, that it be as minimal as you can. Because we don't want to see a decrease in enrollment just because I cannot afford to go to college. And I know you know this already. I did want to ask, last term we were playing around with a bill for one of the properties that UOG was asking for perhaps an increased walkway and some sort. So I wanted to know where we were at because the last bill that we looked at, you had the latitude and the longitudinal area of what you desired within this, right by the building. I think the building, what was that building by?
So that's the hatchery for shrimp and tilapia in Manilao. Yep. Yeah,
so are we moving forward with any of that? Has there been any discussion about how we can expand the hatchery and you know, if this will actually give you additional funding, then I hope that we can explore it again and have a more accurate area that you are looking to receive to you know, allow this hatchery to expand and perhaps get you additional funding for UOG and also additional learning environment for the students that go there.
Yeah, a team from UOG had met with a team from CLTC to discuss that area, and they came to agreement on exchanging the land for services rendered by the university. And we're in the process of drawing that agreement up and moving forward with getting the land transferred. And so we're moving forward with our plans to develop that. Okay,
and what will the services be? This sounds like an in-kind service. What are they looking at?
It's a lot of, I think it's agricultural training is what they're looking for to help people identify uses of land. And so it's basically our College of Natural and Applied Sciences putting on training seminars for CLTC recipients to assist. I think it's mostly with farming related issues.
Oh, okay. And and how will that help UOG as a matter of funding and?
It's not going to be a big thing, but it's going to be something, and a lot of some things can add up to a significant amount. But that's one area where we have a property. We feel like there's a lot of potential for that property, and if we can get with a private partner, we can bring in a small amount of lease revenue every month to help be one part of the solution of trying to diversify our revenue streams.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you very much for all that you do. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Randy, last year on that bill, Senator Nelson only asked for two things. You're supposed to do the survey, and you're supposed to do the photo.
Yeah.
That's all we needed now. Okay, so come on now. Get the photo, get the survey, put the overlay, get it to us so we can get it out.
Okay.
Because you're slowing down the little thing to
Yeah.
become a big
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay?
I apologize
We want to
for
help
that.
you. Okay?
The survey ended up being more challenging than we expected.
I understand.
But this week it was supposed to be finished, so
Yeah.
I'll follow up on that and we'll get that out.
Thank you, Randy. Just, Dr. Christ, just get on Randy, okay? Let's get this done. We want to, the Guam legislature, the senators today, just like the senators before, want to help you. We can't help you if you don't help us help you. It's that simple. Senator Lee, do you have any questions?
Mrs. Masi, Mr. Chair, and thank you all so much for being here and providing your testimony to this committee. I think it's worth noting, especially that a big chunk of your presentation, Dr. Kreis and your team, is focused on the research that you're doing at the University of Guam, and I think that's incredibly valuable and important, not just for your students and not just for the people who participate in this research, but for us as a policy-making body to be able to have data and local research, and even for the region. It's really groundbreaking, a lot of different things that you're focusing on, all the great work that's going on at the Marine Lab and at MARC and WERI and the Cancer Research Center. So I just really want to give kudos to you and ask that you please continue to pour a lot of your resources and time and energy into the research part of it, and it really helps to inform us a great deal in the work that we do to make sure that we're not just coming out with these pie-in-the-sky ideas that aren't informed and based in that research and data. So I certainly look forward to supporting your asks for today, but we also want to continue to ask you to please continue to be a partner with us. Every time that I've asked to have meetings with people that are involved at UOG, they've always been super quick to come back to me and to sit down and explain things, because I'm certainly not a subject matter expert in terms of GORAX and other things. So I just want to thank you in advance for being that great partner for us and for continuing to inform this body and the entire community and our region in the great work that you do. If I have any other questions, I think many of my colleagues have asked them already, but I'll be sure to send them on to you, and I look forward to a timely response. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for the great work that you're doing, and thanks in advance for all that you're going to do for us and for future generations. It's Masi.
Thank you, Senator Lee.
Thank you. Senator Clinton Rogel, do you have anything? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'd like to echo the sentiments that Acting Speaker Nelson was mentioning earlier about finding ways to keep tuition affordable. I'm a proud graduate of the University of Guam, and that affordability was something that really helped me to go there as well. And I know that that's one of the major reasons why it's also very successful in this region. It's allowed a lot of people from throughout the region to be able to attend the University of Guam. So are there ways that you guys are examining that you can perhaps keep tuition a little lower and instead expand enrollment, perhaps enrollment throughout the Pacific to maybe other islands in the Pacific that are not in the Micronesian region, but other regions of the Pacific? I know there's other colleges and universities that maybe many of those islands go to instead. I'm talking like islands from Polynesia, Melanesia, et cetera. I assume they go to other universities, perhaps Australia, New Zealand, Hawaii, for example. But maybe our affordability could attract some students from those islands instead of having them go to more expensive universities in Australia and New Zealand.
Thank you, Senator Rogel. I think the idea of attracting students from, say, East Asia or mainland U.S. or Hawaii and other places would be an indication of the quality of the programs. And so I can imagine students from East Asia wanting an American accredited UOG engineering degree. I could see them coming for that. And so as we're working on trying to build a new residence hall that would allow for more students to come. So that certainly is a part of the sort of the strategic thinking about attracting students who can add to our revenues, but also add to diversity of everything, of the experience on campus. So I think that would also be a measure of how good we are, you know, when people start coming on purpose. And we do have students from Japan and Korea, certainly from mainland, from Hawaii, certainly the whole of Micronesia. The delegate to Congress from American Samoa is one of our graduates. So we do that, but I think more of that would be beneficial on many levels, one of which would be increasing resources. So I certainly think that that's a wise direction to go in, and we intend to go that way. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. I will ask Senator Sabina Parrish, do you have any questions, ma'am?
I just want to congratulate the university on the growth that have taken place over the years. I've seen from the time that I was studying there to be a teacher. So I've seen tremendous improvements. I just also, I guess I don't know if this was asked before, but regarding first of all, I did a quick calculation, and roughly there's like every student, the amount of expenses is $2,171. Is that a standard amount, or is that a low amount compared to universities across the U.S.?
So, Senator, the expenses, is that the addition, in addition to, do you mean like room and board expenses? Is that what you mean?
I did a quick calculation of the amount that you're asking for and the amount of students.
Oh,
and my calculation comes out to be about $2,000 per student. Is that
I see.
typical for universities?
Mm-hmm. Right, so the 38% from Guam. So the level of support traditionally for the University of Guam is among the higher levels of among states, among public universities. So there's been a serious disinvestment in public higher education throughout the United States. And so in Guam, we have not had the same kind of plummeting that happened, particularly during the financial crisis. So many states just gutted their public institutions during that and they're just starting to crawl back. And so we didn't suffer that. And so you don't see that if you look at the whole range of the last 20 years. You don't see the plummet after the financial. The plummet has come, it's not so much plummet, is a serious decrease has happened in the last 3 years, not in that earlier period. So it is still, the level of public support for public education, higher education in Guam is better than it is in most states. And so we thank the legislature and the executive for keeping that up. And so, yeah.
The other thing is I just wanted to make a request when you do your strategic planning that, regarding sustainability, I think it's important to ensure that whatever programs that you guys have, if we can leverage those monies so that we can ensure that we're also keeping an account of promoting the Chamorro-centric values as well. So I just want to, request that from you guys.
And thank you, Senator. Both of those issues are critically important and central to all of our thinking as we go through the strategic planning process. We have the Executive Director of the Center for Island Sustainability in the audience here, demonstrating our interest in sustainability as a key element of our pathway forward. We also have the Dean of the University Libraries, which is also responsible for the Micronesian Area Research Center. I've been impressed in my time so far at UOG at the number of faculty and staff engaged in issues related to Chamorro studies, indigenous studies, Micronesian area research. And so by my count, it's more than 36 faculty and staff are engaged in about 10 different sort of units or organizations related to that. So bringing attention and some kind of synergy among those, along with the Preservation Trust, the Guam Museum, other agencies and activities, is really central to the distinctiveness of the University of Guam, as well as its purpose to the public. Right. So.
the other question I have is revenue generation. So I know federal grants are increasing, which is a great sign. What other opportunities do you see out there as far as revenue generating?
So thank you, Senator. I think the public-private partnerships, which the hatchery conversation is one piece of, the new residence hall is another piece of, that's a whole new thing for UOG. So that's opening up some potential. We have the Research Corporation of the University of Guam. The executive director is here present as well, is an indication of how well we're able to manage things related to research. And so something that many institutions have is a research park, which helps to foster the transferal of research knowledge into businesses or even whole industries. So the idea, we've been joking about the term research village instead of research park would be more appropriate for us. But these public-private partnerships are sort of the beginnings of our capacity to do that. So the research grants and the public-private partnerships are sitting on the foundation of the GovGuam appropriation. That general budget helps us do these things. And so, so we certainly have our eyes on all of those kinds of potential new revenue sources.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Dr. Kelly, Marsh.
Hafaday, so it's good to see so many familiar faces here today. It shows that strong interest, the passion that you have, the time and effort that you put into all of this, and your commitment to the work that you do. As Senator Clint Rigel was mentioning, I'm also a proud graduate of the University of Guam, both for my bachelor's degrees and my master's degree in Micronesian studies. So I want to give a small plug to those who are seeking degrees in history and anthropology. I think they can go a long way in our community, as well as Micronesian studies. And really commend the university for all the fields that it's providing opportunity for our community to be gaining expertise in. As you mentioned here on one of the pages, that Guam, the University of Guam is really a strong part of our island workforce, and we can see that across almost all fields, if not all fields. And noting that it's a strong component of the solutions that the island faces. So those are commendable things. I'll touch back on that one in a minute. So as with the others, I've looked at the difference between what has been appropriated and the allocations. Can you give me an example of the time that it takes sometimes for an appropriation or to be actually allocated? It's supposed to be quarterly, but are there long stretches of time before it's actually being delivered?
Senator, the answer is yes, and I'll defer to the VPAF for examples.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the past, we've had long periods of time where we don't get anything from the Department of Administration. I do want to take my hat off for a moment that the current director, a big change that he has made is that we, for the last year plus, we've been getting something every week. So we don't any longer have these long periods where we don't get anything, and it's very helpful to get something. Unfortunately, it's not proportionate to what we're appropriated. So we always end up short at the end of the year. So we're almost halfway through the year, and we still have almost 20 million unpaid, and so we're not going to get 20 million in the next 6 months. I think we've received just over almost 7 million. So if you double that, we're going to be short again at this year. And so while the regularity has improved we really need to be able to get more money each week to make us whole.
So in my rough calculations, and they're very rough, it looks like the disparity, the difference between what is appropriated and what is allocated, that you're dealing with about 20, 22 or more % loss or non-fulfillment. How are you making ends meet? How are you dealing with the loss of over 12 million over the last few years?
Yeah, the first thing is that we haven't been doing, we've cut back on our maintenance and we've cut back on our capital projects. Those are the kind of the easiest things to wipe out, but that's starting to catch up with us, where now when something breaks, it's really broke, and the cost to replace it is more than if we had been maintaining and taking care of it better in the first place. Let's see, the other thing is
cutting back on student financial aid.
Yeah, I mean, again, you know, student financial aid we've cut back, and we've also, as I said earlier, that we've been pushing people towards trying to live off their NAF funds and just say, here's the non-appropriated funds you have, make your choices, live within that, and it's caused a lot of angst, but that's what we've been living under.
Well, it's good to hear that there's been some help with the weekly allotment releases, but certainly I understand the struggle. I mean, 22% non-fulfillment is 22% or so non-fulfillment, and it does make issues really difficult. I was also going to mention, as has been mentioned before, the possibility of the non-residents and seeking ways to bring them in. So when I was going to the University of Guam, one of my classmates was from Malaysia, and that always stuck with me. So I think that there definitely is potential there. Certainly we have institutions that provide educational opportunities that they don't have there, or that are highly regarded, and so they become an attractant. So I see some room for that potential. And one of the other programs, I answered it during the forum and have thought about it for a while beforehand, but programs to bring those of our community back for a year or two, kind of a study at home abroad or study abroad at home kind of program. I think it could help out, whether they would be non-resident or resident rates. That might be an issue for you to tackle, but I think it does so much. It could help bolster the tuition that's coming in and the student numbers, but also for many who are born or have been raised abroad, they are longing for that opportunity to touch back with home. So I think it could do many things, and maybe it would also encourage them at some point in their lives to come back and be part of the workforce here and help out that as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Senator. I will be heading to San Diego, Mr. President, with a small delegation to bring a member of the faculty who teaches in the Micronesian Studies program. It is at the 10th annual largest gathering of Chamorro diaspora in the United States to build awareness about everything University of Guam, everything back home in partnership with Guampedia. And we want to, our theme is Mailet Tati, Study Abroad at the University of Guam. And I've already been working with our different school and college deans to work with their faculty to arrive at some of these very unique type of very short-term college credit bearing or non-college credit bearing for Rhodes Scholars as well, to give our diaspora located across the globe, particularly in the continental US, an opportunity to come home, bring your families. We have summer camps. We already have examples of these types of experiences, studying Pacific coral through the Marine Laboratory, obviously Chamorro Studies, Micronesian Studies, studying our ancient sites, and anthropology, archaeology, also a creative writing workshop to learn about capturing the narratives of a lot of what is unique and certainly representing heritage and history about Guam, with the resurrection of the University of Guam's press that's housed at the Taitino Mark location. We're looking for more folks from across the globe who have a touch point with the island to contribute the narratives, the research, develop more children's stories, develop more discoveries captured on paper. We are traditionally oral-based society, and we wanted to sort of shift the mindset that we really need to capture the narrative. The UOG Press serves as another revenue-generating arm for the University of Guam. The president has allowed me to chair the revenue expansion team for UOG, so we're looking at really unique ways in which we can bring our people back home, or meet them there and take more of these opportunities out in the, not just in the continental U.S., but also through our regional partners. We have already established having a site representative in partnership with all the regional colleges in Palau, in Ponape, in Saipan, and in Majuro. And so for those who are unable to afford to come our way, using a combination of on-site, using University of Guam approved faculty who are part of their faculty, and hybrid offerings, that we can diversify our existing market base and certainly look for ways to enhance the revenue in that regard. Yeah.
Well, those are exciting things to hear about, so I'm so pleased to hear them, and it's wonderful to hear that there is that team looking for that expansion. And I apologize if I missed it somewhere between a couple of the answers. I know when I was teaching online classes that we were getting requests, and I know that that has been a growing factor. So I imagine that's part of the approach that you're looking at as well.
Yes, I just had a breakfast meeting with Mr. Jay Castro, who is from Alameda, California, and he is a media content strategist for Airbnb, worked for Google for a long time. He wants a Master of Science degree or Master of Arts degree in Micronesian Studies. He wants to move his family out here for several years to get this master's degree. And he wants to help find ways in which we can bring a lot of what we have here that's unique to our island and to our immediate Marianas region in order to deliver more content to the much larger diaspora who can't afford to come out here and do the face-to-face opportunity. Yeah.
Very good to hear. And so touching base back with the being a component of the solution to many of the issues that we contend with at the larger island level. Of course, one of the things that we're looking for are ways that that's being strengthened. So maybe if you'd like to speak to that a little bit, the many ways that you're reaching out and helping with being the part of the solution, certainly by creating fine graduates, but perhaps you'd like to speak to some other opportunities that you make available or ways that you reach out?
Yes, Senator. I'll defer to the others at the table, but just to think of ways, for instance, WERI has recently developed the ability to test water across all the possibilities, including copper, which is particularly difficult. And so now we have an on-island resource for testing water that used to have to go off to Hawaii to get tested. So that'd be an example of a research center developing that opportunity. That also provides a small revenue stream that helps support WERI. You're also seeing some growth and development in fundraising, and so thinking about fundraising as a way to supplement revenue. The partnership we have with the Endowment Foundation, and the executive director is here present as well, of the UOG Endowment Foundation, has helped us finance the new School of Engineering Annex. So that's another sort of aspect of developing those opportunities. I think the Research Corporation of UOG is a great example of an agency of the university that can help solve other problems, because they can be an agent for grants for organizations outside the university or in partnership with the university that helps manage those things at a really professional level to make sure that we get all the money that is granted and then qualify for more. So there may be other examples too, but there are lots of different ways that, people at UOG, units at UOG can help solve problems all over Guam and the region. So any others?
If I may add, we have the Regional Center for Public Policy, and we have content experts, scholars who leverage the capacity of our graduate students and some of our undergraduate students to engage in research, to be able to provide papers that and discoveries that ultimately can be used, the data that can be drawn to support policies, strategic planning efforts, decision making, and serve as a reservoir for not just for the legislature, but for our broader community partners. And we're very pleased with just some of the most recent releases. The Guam Economic Report done by our resident economist, Dr. Clarette Ruane, in partnership with her other colleagues in the Regional Center, the corruption survey, and there was a media release on that, and it will serve as a educational platform for what represents different types of corruption, and it certainly serve as a resource for training that can come across all of government of Guam. We're very happy at how our faculty have been able to leverage the capacity of our students, particularly within the Master of Public Administration program. So we hope to see more other types of studies that touch on research problems that are very, very critical for every aspect of what our community needs for problem-solving, decision-making purposes.
And another one that just comes to mind is everything to do with the School of Health, the Nursing and Health Sciences. So the effort to expand the number of our nurses who are producing about 30 a year. We have a plan in place to move that to 40 a year. The CNA program, helping to supply sort of nursing ability at multiple levels. So there are many other examples of ways that UOG can help.
Very good to hear overall, and I think it's good for people to be able to hear those many different ways that you are contributing beyond the students, of course, who are important and their graduation, but all these other ways as well. And as you mentioned it, in fact, I remember I've been given a student paper from a capstone project, and it's very good to see that students are applying their research skills and time being spent to real-world problems that we're dealing with, or real island problems that we're dealing with. And so it was something that was given to me to help me with part of my oversight, to provide a little bit of background on the research they did. So I've certainly been a beneficiary of that. And I'd just like to point out, I know that you are all doing many important things, and from different sectors, there's always that ability for the rest of us to ask for more. But I'm seeing that one of my oversights is being vice chair of the military buildup. And I was just at the meeting that they had this last Tuesday on historic preservation or historic sites and their impact. And I believe there's one coming up this week on the environment. So I know that people can't necessarily be there directly for every meeting, and there are ways that we've been able to interact with those in the university, but it does also seem like there's a bit of a gap somewhere, and maybe it's just that there's so much going on, the issue is just so large. But I'd ask if we could continue to have that dialogue, ways that we can get more direct involvement, and maybe it could be something as simple as having some public statements or public analysis that's just released to the public or put out on the websites that just talk about the impacts. I think it really means a lot to the community to hear from the experts. Right now, in some of our developments, like the military buildup, they have a cadre of experts. And so sometimes the community may perceive that that is the expert analysis, and true, it's expert analysis, but it would also, I think, be good to hear more often expert analysis from the community perspective and see how it does match up. I'm sure it does match up many times, but to see if also there are some different perspectives that we might have from the community perspective. So, but thank you for your time.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Marsh. I have Senator Moylan and Senator Castro to my right and my left. And also, a couple of my colleagues would ask when I ask a few more questions. But I'm going to allow the two gentlemen to my left and right. I've already asked them, keep it minimum. It's a budget. Look at the budget. Provide the support to the University of Guam. Then we'll ask you the question, we gave you the money. Where's the project? Where are the results? Anything that's Chris's real estate's into that business, you know. Show me the money, well, show me the property. Okay, Senator Moylan, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll keep it brief. Dr. Christ, thank you for your presentation, members of your professional team. It's a true statement of what you said during your presentation that UOG is a component of the solutions. And obviously you folks all here are a component of that solution, so much so that the federal government has agreed and continues to agree to provide more and more federal grants. So congratulations to you and your team. On that note, I remember when I was back at UOG in '86, not that long ago, accreditation was a big concern for me. I was wondering, I'm going to graduate and then we're not going to be accredited. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen? No longer the case, so it's a wonderful, wonderful thing for you and your team. Back then on our capital improvements, we only had Building A and Building B. Maybe the chairman, right, that was it. That's it.
There's no president's office, there was a desk.
That's all. No air conditioning. And when it rained, you just got to close the louvers a little bit. And when the power went out, the power went out. But it was still good. It was good, and now it's even much better. I remember going into the bathrooms back then too, and the bar of soap we had was made by the science lab. It was the best soap ever. I thought that, but nobody stole it. You know? It was a good thing. Yeah, I love that soap. But now we got these beautiful buildings, and when I was there, you know, judging for those huts, maybe I can find out later who won, but that was beautiful. But the capital improvement is so important. We make these beautiful things on the island. It's gorgeous, but then we don't maintain it, and it's so sad to see that go back. So I'm promising you, I'll do my best, you know, as an alumni there, and to get the appropriation that you need. So and I'm going to trust in our governor that is allotted. So I'll be your voice for you. So thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Moylan. Now let's see if Senator Castro can top that. Senator Castro.
That's what happens when you're in the minority, I guess, Mr. Chairman. I will go ahead and honor your request. You know, Dr. Taitano, I'm not sure if there's an anthropologist in the room, but I like to carbon date Senator Moylan. Did you say it was 1776? But, you know, Dr. Taitano, to add to her list of growing programs, I know you mentioned a couple. Let's go ahead and add sociology. Mr. Chairman, mes tumol pago, pues no ginin edzu na espiritu marata fan the Tagyum Bistinu Finut Samoru, Sidus Masi, Biba Miss Tomorrow, Biba Sakin Tomorrow, Biba Tomorrow. Sidus Masi para Hago Senhora Dr. Enrique Sehuli na usa Zino Cadden Tomorrow para Hago Loqui Dr. Tyron Santos. Thank you for practicing and applying Chamorro concepts and arts as well. Mr. Chairman, I just have to honor your request, I'm going to go ahead and limit my comments to two main comments and a follow-up request. Instead of waiting for the answer, I'll go ahead and ask for a follow-up session. First of all, thank you to the university family for coming here. All of us, I think, at the table are alums. I, too, graduated a long time ago. I do want to highlight that there seems to be, either it's just public awareness, Mr. Chairman or Mr. President, or there is a growing amount of social entrepreneurism that's coming out of university, and I want to refer specifically to the custom study. And I thought that was a great piece that was put out by the university, okay, through the College of Business and Public Administration. I met with CNMI representatives yesterday from their house, the House of Representatives, and the day before that, and we have a courtesy meeting at 11:30, but I think at the rate we're going, we'll forego that with the acting speaker unless she'd still like to meet in the afternoon. Nonetheless, the point would be, there's specific references to some things we can work on, at least internally within the executive branch, but those concepts actually can be applied across the river, so to speak, and we were collaborating yesterday about improving something as simple as the uniformity of certain forms on fish imports as an example. And you'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but what that can do to facilitate trade and improve data collection and using that to determine some kind of trend and analysis. So thank you to the university for that. I also want to commend the marine science community and those folks who have continually added to the body of knowledge in the area of coral research, fisheries research, and other coastal matters. As the former director of BSP, I was a recipient, beneficiary of their fine work up at the university and working in close collaboration with the Bureau of Statistics and Plans. And I certainly wish the new director a lot of success, Tyrone Taitano, in working with the university community. I do have commendations for the leadership. Of course, Dr. Crisis goes to your predecessors, and hopefully it will continue on through you. When I was at the university, the appropriations were, plus or minus $2 million from maybe around the same time he was there 20, 30 years ago. So it's amazing that while the government of Guam budget has grown, to a certain amount, the university budget has not also grown proportionately in terms of local appropriations. So how you manage to survive, whatever magic you got in there, I appreciate the good work. And actually, it's not magic, it's social entrepreneurship. It's a lot of hard work that you folks are doing. And so with that said, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request, not of specific questions to be answered here, but of a follow-up meeting, a roundtable, whether myself or my colleagues, but certainly with you and your management team, to build upon Senator Rigel and others' inquiry into exploring additional markets, either expanding existing markets, Mr. Chairman, or looking into new markets, or any other type of strategic plan that you may have to grow your revenue base. And to further understand what those impediments might be and how we can help. I also want to encourage you to look towards your social entrepreneurs within the university family, and I'll give you a lead, something I'm looking at. I've looked at last term, leveraging digital assets so that we can maybe generate some revenue. And Mr. Chairman is very familiar with the Guam Land mobile app. And this is a tool that was put together by several agencies to combine the digital assets of even more agencies. And the beauty behind that, Mr. President, is that it was provided for free, and it had tremendous application to the real estate industry. But the government did not continue to fund it. And the reason why that might be an opportunity for you is because if you're able to leverage those assets and charge a premium subscription fee to that industry, there is a source of revenue that will not only sustain the mobile platform, the mobile app platform, but actually generate a nice margin for you to further grow upon that. And so I'll leave you with those two concepts. And the last one in our follow-up meeting, Mr. President of the Student Government, I was the vice president many years ago in Student Region, but it was the former president, Ray Tenorio, who was the SGA president and served as the immediate past lieutenant governor, who really took off the gloves with the Board of Regents to fight for student activity fees. And at the time, I don't know what it is now, and you don't have to respond, at the time it was $160,000 back between 1994 and 1996. And so it's just an exercise of due diligence that I'd like to leave with you, and then we can have a follow-up meeting in this work session to find out where we're at with the use of those monies, because we were also under extreme fiscal restraint, almost near financial exigency. But notwithstanding that, they did not touch the student activity fees. So that's food for thought, and we did a lot of good things with those monies. And Mr. Chairman, I've kept it to under 15 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Castro. And I like how he's trying to sell that program to you, Dr. Christ, so you can tap your chairman in his industry and make money for University of Guam. And Chris welcomes that all the time. Yeah, it's part of his donation, right? But, you know, I have, the acting speaker still has a question, and the oversight chair has a question. I have a lot of questions to ask you, Dr. Christ, but I'll just give you a fair warning. You know, the staff of the OFB are former auditors that used to be in the OPA, so they know your books. So I'm not going to ask too many questions, but I'll ask the acting speaker first, ask hers, and then Senator Shelton, then I'll ask one or two at the most, and it'll be short. I do have a letter drafted to send to you to give a response. Fair warning, your budget is not going to get approved like next month or something. It'll go through the whole, you know, program of towards the end of the year. But so there may be other roundtables I may call just so that all my colleagues can ask you all the questions, so we can. I want to make sure that and convince the governor you get your allotments. Number one, I want to make sure there's nothing on reserve. There's no 15% put in reserve against any education agencies out there. And then we just go after that. And the continuing appropriation that you stated here on your slide, I agree to that. As a matter of fact, last year during the budget, I was calling folks at UOG and everybody saying, what else did you need? We added on to prevent you from, I think it was on the bill, was that you would be denied the ability to hire folks. We allowed that to be included. So make sure you turn on your phones when it's budget time, okay? So we'll know. Acting Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your indulgence. I just have one quick question. The northern and southern soil and water conservation, there was an appropriation for them about $136,000. And I'm reading in your testimony that the northern is not active. Well, in the event the northern district becomes active, so are they not active now? And where's this money? What is this money used for? Is this money used for trips? Are they implementing? What products have you seen from the development and funding them?
Yeah, we're passed through on those funds, and I don't believe there's any travel that takes place, but that's just administrative costs to keep the boards funded and have supplies and opportunities to meet.
So what do they do, though? I mean, what do they do? Like, how have they impacted our community? Maybe within the past year.
I'm not the expert in that. If we could get back to you.
Okay, because you know, last term we passed a bill. And basically, it was a bill dividing the northern district and the southern district by some geological research saying that, you know, the northern is where the water, the aquifer starts and ends, and then the southern end is perhaps the more mountainous areas where we don't receive our aquifer. So there was an area in Guam that we kind of wrote a line in the sand to almost intentionally divide the two. So it made me think, are the boards northern and southern representatives, is there a conflict with each other that they felt that they needed to divide Guam to make it very clear, this is your end and this is my end? Because if that's the case, I'm thinking that perhaps we should just have a soil and water conservation. Because we should also, you know, there should not be a divide Guam is not that big. So everyone has a stake in this island, whether you're from the north and you're from the south. And I see, you know, that's almost a, it's almost like a subconscious culture. I see it in education as well. The southern schools are given very little attention to the challenges that they're facing, and the northern schools are getting more because of the population difference. But I'm a little bit concerned that perhaps we need to start thinking about unifying a lot of areas in Guam, and I think that this is a significant area that we really need to look at. Perhaps we should combine the boards and stop this active division within the two, because Guam's not a big state, 36 miles long. So can you please look into that? Because I just want to know what kind of product that we are expected to get from that, or even if it's policy or something has to be observed.
We'll get back to you on that. And,
all right, thank you, Dr. Price.
The Weary staff is running one of their tours
yes,
of the
that's right.
aquifer
It was
right now.
Weary
Yes, right,
that showed the I think the aquifer separation between north and south, and so there's like, okay, we're plotting this line right here, and I really didn't agree to the division between the north and south. I think that if you're part of a board, you should, be unified, especially if it's Guam, so small.
I think it's just an amateur, but from listening to Dr. John Jensen and others, I think it has to do with the character of the water supply is very different in the north and the south. So I assume that's why, but we'll get you an expert opinion. One of the best experts anywhere in the world. we'll get
and perhaps we can combine the board.
Yeah, so, right.
Right?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I think your question and consideration may be very timely, because I know that the Southern Board has been very, very active,
right,
and the Northern Board has been less active, and there's been rumblings from the Southern Board to try to get some of the money from the Northern Board. So,
yeah, so maybe it should just be combined, right?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and thank you again to the UOG faculty and staff.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think Senator Shelton has yielded. She's going to wait for that round table we're going to have, Dr. Christ. I only have, I'm only going to ask maybe one or two questions, actually, because there's a lot of questions that were asked that was on my list. You have 40 vacancies, 10 new, 30 old. When do you plan on filling those positions? If you had the funds in 2019 or in 2018, and the reason why I say they're old, some of them are 2016. So we can't use the excuse we don't get the money, because when you did get the money, you didn't hire. And I'm only concerned that if, as you're asking for 2020, for 10 additional new, and I know you're asking, some of them is for the engineering, understood, support, not a problem. But then when you have 30 old positions and you haven't filled it, and it equates to $1.5 million, I'm like, what is the increase you were looking at in tuition? Is it about $1 million? If you're not going to hire the positions, don't consider an increase in tuition. You know what I mean? Somebody, I know Chris is going to be looking at that. I'm just concerned. Be very careful of that. Be able to answer that when we come to the round table. There's a bunch of stuff I seriously wanted to ask you. FY 2017 audit, there's 5 deficiencies concerning UOG. Strength procedures to obtain required documents, monitor, account for delinquent and consider writing off long outstanding notes receivable, periodically assessing non-movable and inactive accounts, timely coordinated construction in progress capitalization, maintain vendor selection documentation, strengthen monitoring of dorm collection. Be prepared, please, to answer those questions. We want to get an answer to it, because my colleagues would like to know before we go final on the vote. Because, your budget is not that high, but it just concerns us. I think it's more the issue of getting your allotments. And I know that if you got your allotments, a lot of things will be resolved. A lot of things will be resolved. And then let's finish off the bill on the hatchery and in the 21st century. Okay? Chris is laughing because he knows what I'm talking about. I want to help you folks. I want to help everybody in the education institution. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and conclude this budget hearing, but we will have an additional roundtable. My colleagues have asked. They're writing like crazy up here. They have a lot of questions, but I know that some of the questions will be answered by some of the other questions the other colleagues will ask. And we won't need UOG's faculty and staff up here. Dr. Christ, just bring who you need. And not everybody now, okay? Okay, the Committee on Appropriations will continue to receive testimony in reference to the budget of the University of Guam. And please address that testimony to the office of Senator Joe S. San Agustin, submitted via email to Senator Joe S. San Agustin at gmail.com. Si Jus Marcy for your attendance, University of Guam. Viva UOG! And thank those at home. Thank you for watching. And we will now have a 10-minute break for the system to upload, and then we'll have the charter schools. All right? Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Christ, and your staff.
Mr. Chairman and senators.